For over 3,000 years, this single plant was considered the most feared, the most heavily guarded, and the most magically potent living thing on the entire face of the earth. Ancient legends whispered in dark corners that pulling this bizarre, twisted root directly from the soil would unleash a fatal, deafening scream, cursing anyone who dared to harvest it alive. Today, we are stepping far beyond the modern fairy tales, the fantasy novels, and the cinematic magic to uncover the dark, terrifying, and brilliant botanical reality of the infamous mandrake root. We are going to explore exactly why the ancients were absolutely terrified of it, how it altered the course of medical history, and exactly why I am deliberately growing it in my own garden today. I actually recorded the raw audio of our recent harvest in the test plot to see if there is any truth to the screaming legend that terrified the medieval world for centuries. I have posted that unedited audio clip in a short video linked in the description below, so after this video, you can listen and decide for yourself what you hear. To truly understand the mandrake, we have to travel back to its ancestral home in the dry, unforgiving, sun-baked soils of the ancient Mediterranean basin. From the rocky hillsides of Greece and Italy, down through the historical Levant, North Africa, and the Middle East, this plant has embedded itself deeper into human history than almost any other crop. It thrives naturally in highly draining rocky terrain, places where the summers are brutally hot and dry, and the winters are cool and mild. But before we talk about how to cultivate it, I must give you a critical, non-negotiable warning. This plant is not a food crop like our other perennial vegetables in the thriving garden. Mandrake is a highly toxic, powerful hallucinogen belonging to the nightshade family. It is strictly an ornamental, historical curiosity, and must never be ingested by anyone under any circumstances. It belongs to the exact same botanical family as your common garden tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and peppers, but it also shares its dark DNA with the deadly belladonna and henbane. What makes this plant so visually shocking, and what birthed the horrifying legends, is the completely unique and bizarre way its massive taproot develops deep underground. As the root pushes through the rocky Mediterranean soil, it frequently splits and bifurcates as it navigates around stones, forming what looks exactly like a small, gnarled pair of human legs. When ancient foragers carefully dug these up, they honestly believed they were pulling tiny, sleeping earth spirits from the ground. This human-like shape gave the mandrake its absolute immense power. Because of this terrifying resemblance to the human body, harvesting it became an incredibly dark, highly superstitious ritual. People genuinely believed that if a human pulled the root, the plant's scream of agony would strike them dead on the spot. To safely harvest it, medieval foragers developed a complex system. They would dig carefully around the root to loosen the earth, tie a heavy rope to the top of the plant, and attach the other end to a hungry dog. The forager would then retreat, plug their ears with wax, blow a loud horn to drown out the fatal scream, throw a piece of meat to the dog, and watch from a safe distance as the dog unknowingly pulled the root from the soil. It sounds like pure madness today, but this belief was so deeply ingrained in society that people paid astronomical prices for safely harvested, fully intact mandrake roots. Roman surgeons actually used massive, highly calculated doses of mandrake wine as one of the world's very first surgical anesthetics, putting patients into a deep, dangerously slow sleep before operating. Before we dive into exactly how to cultivate this legendary nightshade and look at the apothecary preservation process, please take a second to subscribe to Thriving Garden and hit the like button. Your support helps us unearth more botanical mysteries and keep these forgotten plants alive. Now that you understand the heavy, dark history attached to this nightshade, you might be wondering how to actually cultivate it in a modern, perennial system without failing. growing mandrake is considered the ultimate test of patience for a rare plant collector. It is notoriously difficult to start from seed because it demands that you perfectly mimic its harsh, natural environment. The tiny seeds contain a powerful chemical inhibitor that stubbornly prevents them from sprouting right away. In the wild, they must survive a cold, wet Mediterranean winter before they ever consider waking up. To replicate this in your home, you must use a process called cold stratification. You place your seeds in damp sand, put them in the back of the refrigerator, and wait for 6 long, uninterrupted weeks. Once they experience this artificial winter, you can bring them out into the warmth of your grow room. Even then, germination is incredibly erratic and can take several more months of agonizing patience. When a fragile seedling finally emerges, you face the second major challenge. Mandrake requires exceptionally deep, highly porous soil to form that famous human-like taproot structure. If the growing root hits a layer of hard, compacted clay or a large rock in your garden bed, it will instantly stunt its growth, deform into a twisted ball, and slowly rot away underground. You must plant it in a specialized, deep raised bed, or use a classic long-tom pot, which is exceptionally tall and narrow, filled with an airy mixture of coarse sand, perlite, and rich compost. This extreme drainage is absolutely vital because mandrake is highly susceptible to root rot. It desperately wants the harsh, dry, oxygen-rich conditions of a rocky hillside in southern Italy. The third challenge is understanding its bizarre, reversed growing cycle. Unlike most garden plants that thrive in the summer sun, mandrake absolutely hates the extreme summer heat. When the peak summer temperatures arrive, the broad, crinkly green leaves will completely wither, turn brown, and vanish from the surface of your garden bed entirely. Many first-time growers panic and throw the soil away, assuming the toxic plant has died. But it has simply entered a deep, highly protective summer dormancy to survive the heat. The massive root is perfectly alive, sleeping safely deep underground, hoarding its energy and waiting for the cooler, wetter rains of autumn to trigger a brand new flush of massive green leaves. This reversed growth cycle makes it an incredibly unique companion in the permaculture garden, as it occupies space and gathers energy when your other plants are completely dormant in the late fall and early spring. Wait until you see the shape of the 2-year-old root we unearthed in our raised test plot. It is the most striking humanoid structure I have ever successfully grown. I have put a side-by-side comparison of it in my latest short video. Go check out The Mandrake Man to see exactly what terrified our ancient ancestors when they dug in the dirt. When the mandrake does finally bloom in the early spring, it produces beautiful, delicate, bell-shaped purple and white flowers that cluster tightly together in the very center of the leaf rosette. These beautiful flowers eventually give way to small, round, green berries that slowly ripen into a bright, toxic yellow. Historically, and for very good reason, these were called the apples of the devil. You must handle these ripe berries with extreme caution, wearing thick gardening gloves, as the toxic alkaloids can easily transfer to your skin, enter through microscopic cuts, and cause severe irritation and dilated pupils. If we dig deeper into the history before we touch the soil mix, we find that the mandrake's power wasn't just feared, it was also highly desired for its perceived fertility magic. In the book of Genesis, the mandrake makes a very famous appearance in the story of Rachel and Leah. The roots were intensely fought over because the ancients believed they had the power to instantly cure barrenness. In ancient Egypt, traces of mandrake have been found in the tombs of the pharaohs, including Tutankhamun. The Egyptians associated the plant with deep romance, intoxication, and the afterlife. During the Middle Ages in Europe, the root took on an even darker persona. It became intimately associated with witchcraft, and possessing a mandrake root could be used as evidence of dark magic during the Inquisition. In Germanic folklore, the root was known as the Alraun. It was believed that a mandrake would naturally grow precisely at the crossroads where a criminal had been executed, springing to life from the earth beneath the gallows. Because the true roots were so incredibly valuable, massive counterfeiting rings existed across Europe. Scammers would carve ordinary bryony roots into intricate human shapes, bury them in sand to cure, and sell them to desperate buyers as authentic magical mandrakes. To prove authenticity, true mandrake roots were highly prized if they still had the characteristic tuft of dead leaves attached directly to the very top of the head. Now that you know the weight of the history you are handling and how to germinate the seeds, we need to talk about constructing the perfect soil mix to keep this living antique alive. Mandrake will absolutely not survive in standard store-bought potting soil. It holds far too much moisture. You have to create a custom, gritty blend that perfectly mimics the rocky Levant. Start with 1 part high-quality organic compost to provide the nutrients, and mix it aggressively with 2 parts coarse builder's sand and 1 full part of pumice or large, chunky perlite. This creates an incredibly fast-draining, highly oxygenated environment. When the heavy autumn rains arrive, the water must flow rapidly past the root system without ever pooling around the sensitive crown. Watering a mandrake is an exercise in extreme restraint. During its active winter and spring growth phase, you only water it when the top 3 inches of the soil are completely bone dry. When the intense heat of summer arrives and the plant completely dies back to the ground, you must stop watering it entirely. The sleeping root needs absolute bone-dry dormancy to survive the season. If you continue to water the empty dirt during the summer, thinking you are helping it, the dormant taproot will quickly rot into a mushy, foul-smelling liquid, completely destroying years of patient cultivation. Interestingly, despite being packed to the brim with deadly nightshade alkaloids that would paralyze or kill most mammals, the mandrake is highly susceptible to the most common, mundane garden pests. Slugs and snails are completely immune to the toxic chemistry. They will happily devour the emerging, crinkly green rosettes in the early spring if you do not aggressively protect them. You must surround the base of the plant with a thick barrier of crushed eggshells, copper tape, or sharp diatomaceous earth. Losing those first critical leaves to slugs will severely weaken the root's ability to photosynthesize. So, where exactly does a highly toxic, summer-dormant plant fit into a thriving permaculture food forest system that is primarily designed to feed your family with safe, edible crops? In permaculture, every element must serve multiple functions. Mandrake serves as a deep mineral accumulator, driving its taproot far down into the subsoil to pull up trace elements. But more importantly, because it completely dies back and vanishes in the summer, you can actually plant shallow-rooted, heat-loving annuals right over the top of the sleeping root without any root competition whatsoever. You can grow a flush of summer radishes, shallow lettuces, or even trailing nasturtiums over the dormant mandrake. When the summer annuals fade and die in the autumn, the mandrake wakes up and takes over the space. This ensures that the soil is covered with a living root, and the soil microbiome remains highly active all winter long, preventing erosion and keeping the biological web intact. Now, we usually bring our perennial harvests to the garden table to cook them. We made ashitaba tempura and sea kale shoots. But today, we are doing something entirely different. We are stepping back in time and transforming our garden table into a medieval apothecary. I'm going to show you how to process this plant historically. I cannot stress this enough. Mandrake is a deadly nightshade. You cannot boil it, bake it, fry it, or roast it to make it safe. Heat does not destroy this plant's chemical weapons. The root is absolutely packed with highly toxic tropane alkaloids, specifically scopolamine, hyoscyamine, and atropine. If you were to drop this root into a boiling stew, the hot water wouldn't kill the poison. The boiling water would actually extract the alkaloids with perfect efficiency, turning your entire pot of food into a lethal, paralyzing, hallucinogenic broth. That is exactly how ancient assassins and poisoners utilized it. So, instead of cooking it, I am going to show you how the ancient apothecaries and herbalists safely processed, cleaned, and permanently preserved this root to use as a protective talisman without poisoning themselves. The first unbreakable rule of the apothecary is never to wash a fresh mandrake with water. Water instantly activates the decomposition process on the sensitive skin of the root. Instead, we must meticulously dry brush the soil away from the crevices. I use a stiff-bristled boar hair brush to gently sweep the volcanic dirt and sand off the main body. You have to be incredibly gentle and focused here. The raw, fleshy root is surprisingly brittle and full of water weight. If you snap one of these bifurcated legs while brushing, you ruin the human-like shape. Once the root is completely brushed clean and you can see the pale, wrinkled skin, we have to pull the moisture out of it rapidly. If we just leave it on a wooden shelf, the internal water will cause it to mold and rot from the inside out. We use a historical preservation technique. I have a large, shallow wooden curing box filled with a desiccant mixture of completely dry builder's sand and extremely coarse sea salt. This gritty, salty mixture acts as a powerful vacuum. We lay the cleaned mandrake root completely flat onto the bed of salt, spreading the roots out so they don't touch each other. Then, you pour more of the salt and sand mixture completely over the root until it is buried by at least 2 inches of the desiccant. The salt immediately begins drawing the toxic moisture out of the plant cells. You leave this wooden curing box in a dark, warm, highly ventilated room. Over the next 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the thickness of the root, the salt will completely dehydrate the cellular structure. When you finally dig your hands into the salt and unearth it weeks later, it has completely transformed. It shrinks by about 50%, turns a dark, leathery brown, and becomes incredibly hard. The shrinkage actually causes the root to wrinkle and fold, making the human features look deeply exaggerated, aged, and incredibly eerie. Listen to this. When I tap the hardened root against the wooden table, it makes a sharp, hollow, woody sound. It is completely petrified, frozen in time forever. This is exactly what the counterfeiters in the Middle Ages tried to replicate when they carved those fake mandrakes out of ordinary roots and baked them in the sun to sell to kings and merchants. Now that the root is completely dry and safely petrified, it is time to properly mount it. A true collector of ancient historical plants doesn't just throw these into a desk drawer, they display them with absolute respect. We secure it inside a beautiful, glass-fronted wooden shadow box lined with dark velvet. We use small, solid brass pins to hold the twisted arms and legs perfectly in place against the fabric. This shadow box keeps the root completely safe from atmospheric humidity, which could cause it to soften. But far more importantly, the locked box keeps it completely out of reach of curious pets or children in your home. Behind this simple pane of glass is over 3,000 years of dark, dramatic human history. A root that was used to put wounded Roman gladiators to sleep and accused witches to the pyre. It is a stark, visual reminder that the thriving garden isn't just a place for sweet summer berries, tender greens, and easy harvests. It is a living museum of the Earth's most powerful ancient chemistry. Growing plants like our beloved sea kale, moringa, and ashitaba secures our physical health, our caloric intake, and our immediate food supply. But growing plants like mandrake secures our connection to the deeper tapestry of human history. It forces us to remember the brave foragers who mapped the boundaries of the natural world, discovering what could heal us and what could kill us. It reminds us that the garden is not just a manicured outdoor grocery store. It is a wild, complex, fiercely independent, and sometimes highly dangerous ecosystem that demands our absolute respect and lifelong study. We must actively work to preserve this biodiversity. If we only grow safe, sweet, genetically uniform, patented crops, we lose the rich, dark, mysterious botanical heritage of our ancestors forever. The entire philosophy of the thriving garden is about embracing all aspects of nature. We embrace the light and the dark, the wildly edible and the fiercely toxic, the fast-growing greens and the painfully slow-growing roots. If you have the immense patience to cold stratify the stubborn seed, the discipline to withhold summer water when every instinct tells you to water it, and the respect to handle the toxins safely, the mandrake is a true botanical masterpiece. It transforms your backyard from a simple vegetable patch into a true garden of antiquity, filled with epic stories, ancient legends, and the very plants that shaped the course of human civilization, medicine, and mythology. I want to sincerely thank you for joining me on this darker, more mysterious journey into the soil today. It is absolutely vital that we keep these ancient stories and rare seeds alive for the next generation of gardeners. If you are brave enough to try germinating your own mandrake seeds this season, leave a comment below. I want to know who the true botanical adventurers and historians are in this growing community. Do not forget to watch the 2 short videos I linked in the description below. Hearing the harvest audio and seeing the bizarre, human-like root structure up close is something you will not soon forget. Please hit that subscribe button one more time, leave a like on the video, and make sure your notifications are turned on. The thriving garden is growing rapidly, and you do not want to miss the incredible plants we have coming up next. Next week, we are stepping firmly out of the darkness of the nightshades and back into the light with a plant that the ancient Romans ate every single day before it mysteriously vanished from modern agriculture. We are going to explore the forgotten world of Alexander's, the absolute giant of the ancient culinary world. We will learn how to bring its massive, celery-like yields and incredible flavor profile into your perennial food forest. Until then, keep tending to your soil, keep expanding your botanical boundaries, and always remember to treat the wild, untamed power of nature with the ultimate respect it deserves. Take care of yourselves, stay endlessly curious about the past, and I will see you right back here next week for another incredible chapter in the thriving garden.